Hello there, Dan the Weatherman here. We're talking about the Polar Vortex. You've probably heard about it, but you wonder, well, what is it? Well, think of it like a big blob of cold. One that sits on top of the planet, North Pole, the other one that sits on the bottom, on the South Pole. And these are some 3D models of the actual blob of cold air. Now, the strange thing this week, of course, for New Zealand in the Southern Hemisphere was that the coldest air of the season in spring occurred. Normally you'd think that would happen in the middle of winter, and it was all down to the polar vortex. This is created and driven by what is darkness. Darkness with no sunlight is obviously really cold. And when you're in 24-hour darkness over Antarctica through the winter, this thing just grows. So this is how it currently looks, the polar vortex. That's the northern hemisphere, and that one, it's like Mother Nature just plugged in the switch for the neon light. That one is just starting, but it's higher up in the atmosphere. That hasn't really connected to the surface, so that's why we haven't seen those cold outbreaks across parts of the northern hemisphere yet. Give it a couple of weeks, we will. But this one, see how there's a lobe there? New Zealand sits there. That was the cold outbreak, but you think, well, winter. Shouldn't it be the coldest in the winter? Yeah. It should be, but the way the jet stream moves now, it's more erratic and volatile. But think of this in the winter as a big lump of frozen ice. But then as the sun starts to work on the edges, it becomes a bit more like melted, more wobbly. And as it does get wobbly, you get bits that, like a wobbly lump of jelly, just wobble out. And when you do get those in the spring, you're all of a sudden getting the cold, real core of air mass coming straight from Antarctica, the ice shelf, and spreading to the higher latitudes. In the case of New Zealand, had the coldest air mass for the course of the spring and even for the whole year. This thing through the course of the week, you can see what's going to happen. It starts to rotate away, much milder for New Zealand and parts of Australia. But more importantly, look how it's shrinking here. The longer days over parts of Antarctica mean this thing is, the big lump of jelly, frozen jelly, is starting to melt, so that will fade as you go through the next couple of weeks. But of course, with the longer nights in the northern hemisphere, see how this guy starts to grow, and you see how the bits are starting to drop down. Once you get the blob of cold hitting the surface, then you'll start seeing those cold outbreaks spread down across Siberia and in particular northern parts of Europe as well, and North America in the coming weeks, as you normally would see. But the polar vortex, it really plays a big part in our weather. That's the weather for now.